Hello friends. This is Subhant What Ifs. Welcome to my channel. So in this video, we gonna talk about what if Naruto was the son of Hippolyta. The summary says, blessed with the powers of the god of war and raised to love his sisters, Naruto, the Prince of Themyscira, will allow no evils of the world to go unpunished. God of war influence. Before we start the story, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's start the story. Trudging cautiously through the large and lush forest of Paradise Island was a small herd of wild boars searching for a new grazing location. The last one they occupied was lost to them when a vicious and hungry panther suddenly attacked and killed a number of their kin without warning, effectively forcing the survivors to flee the territory they once proudly roamed. Now miles away from their feline tormentor, the wild boars walk the forest floors, completely unaware that they've been targeted by new predators. Observing the small group of beasts from a respectable distance were two figures that stood undetectable thanks to the cloak of darkness the forest provided for them. Remember your lessons, daughter, the taller of the two figures whispered, her tone was hushed enough to escape the boar's ears. When it comes to hunting, what you must value over all others is patience. Now draw your weapon my child and prepare to secure tonight's meal. The woman speaking was none other than Hippolyta, the queen of Themyscira, a city that was built in the middle of Paradise Island by a race of immortal Amazons. Normally during such an early time in the day, the immortal queen could be found occupying her throne room or greeting her subject sisters on the streets of Themyscira, but today, instead of attending her royal responsibility, she decided to spend some bonding time with her daughter, Diana, by teaching her how to properly hunt. Thanks to some lesson from Themyscira's top archer, Artemis, the young princess was far from being an amateur with a bow. Lifting her bow and arrow with practiced ease, Diana trained one of her sharp blue eyes on the biggest wild boar. Be sure to keep your shoulders high, your back straight and a keen eye focused on your target. Yes, mother. When drawing your arrow be sure to apply just the right amount of pressure. Yes, mother. Bracing her little huntress with a prideful smile, Hippolyta lightly placed a supporting hand on Diana's shoulder. She knew her little warrior was already very proficient with a bow and arrow, thanks to Artemis's training, but her motherly instincts couldn't stop her from sprouting pieces of advice. I must be quite the bother, I'm sorry, Diana, just show me what Artemis has taught you. Suppressing the urge to roll her eyes in annoyance, the young princess uttered a final yes, mother. Diana began pulling back onto the arrow's drawstring with intent her metal and missile at one of the unsuspecting hairy beast. One shot. One kill. The princess said quietly to herself, according to Artemis's never-ending lectures, that was the right state of mind to be in when one is wielding a bow. As Diana finally released the arrow from the bow, almost simultaneously, an unnaturally loud noise that neither of the Amazons could recognize tore the air as something massive passed above the mother and child, effectively blocking out the sun few brief seconds. Before either mother or daughter could begin speculating about what just flew over them, the two found themselves struggling to stay upright as a violent tremor shook the ground and another loud noise echoed throughout the forest. However, unlike the first sound that interrupted their hunting trip, the two royalty were able to compare the sound to something large crashing, and according to the volume it wasn't far away. Hera, what was that? A shocked Diana yelled as she looked to her mother for an answer. Hippolyta, facing in the direction of where the unnaturally loud sound originated from, withdrew the sword that hung from her waist and moved closer to her daughter. I don't know, daughter. But I intend to find out. Now with her mind focused on her self-given mission, the queen was prepared to go investigate the disturbance, but stopped for a moment to address her daughter. Diana, you must stay here. What? The raven-haired princess said in a hushed whisper. Mother, you can't be serious. I am. Hippolyta said with steel in her voice. There very well may be danger ahead. And she could not put her precious daughter at risk. And that's exactly why I should accompany, mother. Diana argued back, as a proud Themysciran, she found the idea of being asked to stay behind equivalent to an insult. Just like you and my sisters, I am a born warrior and deserve to be treated as such. From the moment of her birth, Diana was destined to be a warrior like no other, thanks to the enchanted the gods and goddess of Olympus saw fit to bless her with. Even at her young age, Diana was more than a match for the most battle-tested Amazon. Her speed was impressive, her strength was great, and her wit was years beyond her age. No matter what trail was placed in front of her, Diana never failed to prove her worth: swords, spears, bows, hand-to-hand combat and so many other things. Diana had long since proved she was a more than capable fighter. It was something everyone on Themyscira acknowledged about their princess. You're still a child. Hippolyta rebutted. She knew her argument wasn't fair, and Diana was more than capable of fighting by her side, should the need arise, but the queen's motherly side wanting nothing more than to keep her precious child far from danger. And a Themysciran. After a few moments of silence between the two, Hippolyta finally relented. This disagreement was taking up too much time, and she needed to leave now. Fine. But you are to stay a fair distance away. Her compromise was delivered in a no-nonsense tone. Once she received a nod of agreement from her daughter, the warrior queen, with Diana trailing behind, began making her way through the forest to investigate what was responsible for bringing their hunting trip to a grinding halt. As the two grew closer and closer to the source of the disturbance, they came across a startling sight, where once stood tall trees, berry bushes and an array of exotic flowers was now replaced with an image one would compare to a war zone: uprooted trees, charred earth, and even a few dismembered limbs that undoubtedly belonged to humans. By Hera. The 12-year-old stated in breathlessly tone, unlike her mother, she was unused to such sights of wanton destruction. "Trust me, daughter, Hera had nothing to do with this," Hippolyta said as she stared unflinchingly at the served head, more specifically a man-served head. "It's been ages since she's seen such a sight. Steel yourself, daughter, before we were brought to Paradise Island such sights were common to those who claimed the title Amazon." Try as she might, the warrior queen was finding it hard to stop the memories of fighting off both Ares and Hercules' forces from flooding into her memory. "As you know, daughter, the Amazons are no stranger to death and war." With that said, Hippolyta returned her attention back onto the trail of destruction. It only took few more minutes of walking before the mother and daughter pair came upon a scene of pure destruction. Littered around the area were large metal pieces of wreckage that spewed random bursts of sparks. Given the shape of the pieces, it was obvious to the two that they were made to form some even larger construct. Another common sight among chaos were even more corpses. Dropping her bow in shock, Diana clasped both her hands together in front of her. "By Hera," the young Amazon said breathlessly tone. "What madness is this, mother?" For the second time today, Hippolyta found herself unable to find a proper answer for her daughter. "I have no idea." Allowing her curiosity to come to life, the Queen of Themyscira placed her sword back within its sheath as she moved in closer to examine the heavily damaged area. While her mother moved in for a closer look, Diana was more than content to keep her distance, that is until she noticed a trail of blood that led into the forest. Did someone actually manage to survive this? After taking a moment to retrieve her bow, the princess began following the red liquid with the hope that she could find a savior who could answer the questions that plagued her and her mother's mind. After a very brief trek, Diana stumbled upon a severely injured blonde man, slowly rocking what appeared to be blood-soaked orange blanket. Appearing between the ages of 20 and 25, the heavily injured young man was dressed in full black bodysuit that sported a various amount of rips, burns and fresh bloodstains. Strapped to his back was a long katana that features were hidden by a black sheath. Based on all the equipment the man wore, it was obvious he was some kind of warrior. Not entirely sure how to handle such a situation, Diana did the first thing that popped into her head. "Mother. Come quickly." The unprepared princess yelled. She wanted to help, she really did, but with all her knowledge on fighting, Diana lacked medical skills. After hearing her daughter's voice, it didn't take long for Hippolyta to arrive. "What is it, Dia?" "Oh my." Whatever Hippolyta was expecting to find, it was defiantly not a fading man clutching a bloody blanket. Dull blue meet vibrant blue as the spiky-haired blonde somehow mustered enough energy to lift his head and meet Hippolyta's gaze. "Heh, can you believe this kid, Kashina?" the man said through labored breaths. It seems that his condition was playing tricks on his mind. "I mean, who sleeps through a plane crash? All that racket and not a peep out of him." Eyes widening at the word kid, Hippolyta quickly scrambled over to the man's side and placed a hand on the blanket. "By Hera." She could feel movement. "Hey, you mind doing me a favor, Kashina?" The man muttered as he stared at Hippolyta. His voice was getting weaker and weaker. "You mind taking Naruto for a little while? My arms are getting tired." With a small nod, Hippolyta took the bloody orange blanket from the man's hands and unwrapped it to reveal a baby. The blonde hair on top of the toddler's head signified him as the dying man's son, but Hippolyta had no idea what to make of the odd whisker marks that occupied the child's cheeks. Birthmarks. Strange but admittedly adorable. How could a child sleep through such chaos? Hippolyta wondered. The queen's silent question received a horrifying answer. Contrary to what the dying man and Hippolyta initially believed, the child was not sleeping. No, it was wide awake, and the reason its cries did not fill the forest's air was because each breath it took was labored. "Hera, mercy." The devastated woman muttered as she stared at the child. Unless the skies parted at this very moment and out walked a god or goddess to bestow the infant with a blessing, Hippolyta had no doubts the innocent life has only minutes to live. The rough cough brought the retired warrior's attention back to the dying man. "Thanks. And if you don't mind, could you do me one more thing?" "What is it?" the queen asked in a soft voice. "Raise Naruto to be a better man than his father." With his final words spoken, the light finally left the man's eyes. After uttering a brief prayer out of respect, Hippolyta glanced back at her daughter, who watched the scene play out with wide eyes. She was ignorant of the child's imminent death, and Hippolyta wished to keep it that way. "Diana, fetch help from the city," the queen ordered. "But mother." "Now Diana, we do not have to argue on this matter. Go for help now." Hippolyta knew no matter how fast Diana is it would not be enough. Death was lingering over the child's shoulder and there was nothing could be done, the whole facade was to spare her daughter from watching a child die. Why yes, mother. Before Diana took off towards the city, her eyes lingered on the bundle her mother held close to her chest. Once her precious child was long gone, Hippolyta hugged the small blonde boy closer to her chest. You are not one for this world, child, and I wish you happy days in the fields of Elysium. Such a somber scene, it almost makes me forget about your bloody and brutal days on the battlefield. Almost. If Hippolyta was surprised by the unexpected voice, she did an admirable job at now showing it. Ares. The woman spat out if the name was venom. When she turned to look upon the god of war, the beautiful warrior couldn't help but gasp at the form he had chosen to take. The god was the spitting image of the man she watched pass over to the afterlife, the only noticeable differences was Ares's eyes featured his signature blood-red glow. What business do you have here, great deceiver? Ares, amused by the queen's reaction to his form, walked over to the woman and took a knee beside him. I only wish to catch a glance at all this beautiful death before you and your sisters throw the bodies into the Aegean Sea. War idly said as he attempted to brush a finger across the child's forehead. Hippolyta instinctively shielded the baby from Ares's touch. How long do you think he has until he dies? Hippolyta looked at the god in disgust. HMPH, I thought you were the god of war. Not dead children. Ares mockingly recoiled under Hippolyta's words. You have wounded me greater than any sword could, dead queen. Hippolyta was prepared to throw some more insults the god's way, but the sound of the coughing child forced her to divert her attention away. Your suffering is almost over, little Naruto. Soon you will have eternal peace. Eternal peace. That sounds like such a boring existence, which is why I wished to help the child. War revealed. Lies. You speak lies, great deceiver. The queen growled out. To find amusement in the suffering of a child, Ares is worse than what she previously believed. Indeed, I have spoke a great deal of lies in my time, warrior queen. But in this moment, I speak only the truth. All it would take is a small sample of my powers to ensure this child lives past this day. Do you wish to see this child survive, warrior queen? It took a conscious effort on Hippolyta's part not to immediately answer. This child's continued life comes with a price, does it not? Of course it comes with a price. Ares shamelessly admitted. What kind of god would it be if a give-bestow blessing that didn't come with a price? But before you began to worry your pretty little head, I wish to inform you the price will bring no harm to Themyscira or her people. No. The price will be a simple one, and it will be the child's responsibility to pay it. Now, shall I help the child or will we both sit idly by while he dies? The choice was harder than it appeared, let a child die in her arms or put an innocent life in debt to Ares's. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Save him. Save the child's life. She made a promise to take of the child, and if that meant dealing with Ares, so be it. The grin graced Ares's false face. Such a kind and caring queen, I wish I could say I admire that, but I honestly don't care. Now, draw some of your immortal blood and I will draw some of mine. Using his powers, Ares summoned a small dagger and dragged it against his palm. After gently placing the child on the ground below her, Hippolyta used her sword to extend some blood from her palm. And now for the child. Before Ares could use his blade to cut the small boy, his wrist was tightly gripped by the Amazon. Do not play the fool, Hippolyta. I said I am here to bestow the child my blessings, be assured my blade will not take his life. Begrudgingly, Hippolyta released her hold on the god. But girl. Now let us put an end to this. Carefully, Ares made a small laceration on the child's chest. And now we gift the boy with our blood. Together, the god and queen poured their blood over Naruto's wound. Once no more red liquid fell, Ares placed a glowing palm over the boy's blood-stained chest. Hippolyta watched as her and Ares' blood entered the cut. Once their wanted drop left, the sound of a crying baby finally filled the air. By Hera. The queen wasted no time in returning Naruto into her arms. Calm down, my child. Everything is alright now. As she peeked at the child's face, Hippolyta noted the thin whisker marks that graced the young boy's cheeks had now changed into solid black bars. The glance in Ares' direction revealed that the god of war had decided to make his leave. However, he left a few parting words lingering in the air. Be aware, Hippolyta, that child now carries both our blood. By all means, he is your son now. My son. As Hippolyta gently cradled Naruto within her arms, she could hear the sound of multiple footsteps approaching her location. My mother is over here, come quickly. You can't be serious, Hippolyta. A surprised Antiope shouted, her voice was so loud it traveled from the throne room all the way to Themyscira's bustling streets. Crossing her arms underneath chest, Hippolyta gained a look of annoyance. Indeed I am serious, Antiope, and I also would appreciate it if you would quiet down a bit. I don't want you upsetting the child with your yelling. On the other side of the throne room, Diana was busy with keeping a newly awakened Naruto entertained. It was most certainly a good thing it was a baby they were dealing with, someone a couple of years older would have most likely been placed in a state of depression given the tragedy that occurred today. Apologies, Hippolyta. Auntie Po replied in a strained tone. I would just to be the one to upset your new son. The blonde Amazon all but growled out her last word. Yes, my son, your nephew and all of Themyscira's brother. Hippolyta's tone suggested she wasn't budging on the matter. Why are you so resistant to this, sister? I just want to help a child. But I understand. In the city of Themyscira there wasn't a single woman who wouldn't come to the aid of a child or anyone who truly deserved their help. Being compassionate was a part of their culture. What I want to know is why do you specifically have to adopt him? That question earned Auntie Ope a confused look from Hippolyta. You have a problem with me claiming Naruto as my son. On the journey back to Themyscira, she had decided to keep the fact that Naruto is hers by blood a secret. At least, until he is accepted by the majority of their people. Yes, I do. Auntie Ope revealed. If he becomes your son he'll also become the Prince of Themyscira. You'll be single-handedly destroying sacred tradition by placing a man in power, and most importantly how do you think our sisters will feel about that? They will accept it because I will raise Naruto to be a true Themysciran. He will know and respect his home's history, he will love each of his sister individually, and he will be humble and kind. Well, can't all those things be achieved in another home that isn't our city's palace? Hippolyta's eyes narrowed as she stared towards her sister. With his dying breath Naruto's father entrusted me to raise his son. Well, to be honest, the dying man mistake her for someone else, but Auntie Ope didn't need to know that little tidbit. And I intend to carry it out. Thanks to blessings given to them by the goddesses, headache were unheard of in Themyscira, but Auntie Ope massaged her temple anyway. To this day, Hippolyta, you've never respected a single word that's been spoken by a man, bar the gods above us, so why start now? That question, sister, is easily answerable. Hippolyta said with an accompanied knowing smile. Diana, come here and bring you little brother. The confused look on Auntie Ope's face caused Hippolyta's smile to grow a bit wider. Yes, mother. Diana said as she approached the two older women with her little brother in hand. The outcome of her mother and aunt's debate mattered very little to the young princess because she had already reached a conclusion concerning the spiky-haired blonde. No matter what path is chosen for Naruto, he will always be her little brother. Once Diana was standing in front of them, Hippolyta revealed her plan. Now Diana, hand Naruto to Auntie Ope. The queen simple said. What? How would holding the child influence her stand on the matter? Whatever Hippolyta was playing at, Auntie Ope was having a hard time following. Still wearing her knowing smile, Hippolyta watched as Auntie Ope took the child within her arms. For a short moment, Auntie Ope had a hard time remembering how to hold a baby, but it didn't take long until her instinct kicked in. What is your game, Hippolyta? The blonde Amazon thought as she stared at Naruto's features. TCH, I suppose you are kind of cute with your bright blonde hair, ocean blue eyes and adorable whiskers. But are you cute enough to hold a position of power in Themyscira? Absolutely not. Well, maybe just a little power. After a couple of silent minutes passed, Auntie Ope finally relented and pressed the child against her bosom, giving him a hug. Oh, I can't take it anymore. What woman wouldn't such an adorable child as their own? I wish I was the one found. Hippolyta couldn't help but chuckle at her sister's actions. Just as planned. Don't forget, he's your nephew, and I will be depending not only on you to help me properly raise him, but all of Themyscira. Oh, I plan to. Auntie Ope said as she placed a kiss atop of Naruto's head. But I still think some of our sisters will be wary about putting a man in a position of power. Of course they will be, how could they not given their history? And I don't blame them. But Naruto will not be like the man they've experienced before, he'll be different, he'll be better. We all will make sure of that. HMPH, let's ensure we do. Auntie Ope said with a small smile. So do wish for me to gather Amazons to make the announcement they have a new prince? No. That won't be necessary. Hippolyta answered with a shake of her head. I started my day off wanting to spend quality time with my daughter, and now I wish to add my son into it. Later in the evening, thanks to the light from the full moon that occupied the sky, Hippolyta was able to receive a clear view of what she believed to be most adorable scene in the world. Both Diana and Naruto cuddled together on her bed, sleeping off today's life-altering events. As the queen silently watched too, she could feel a set of eyes watching her from behind. Quickly swiveling around, Hippolyta came face to face with a snow-white owl that sat in her window. That isn't just any owl. She thought as her eyes stayed glued on the winged creature. Wasting little time, Hippolyta removed herself from the bed in a way that wouldn't awaken the sleeping children and bowed before the bird. Lady Athena. The warrior queen said in a soft voice. Without any warning, the owl, revealed to be a goddess, abandoned its perch and flew into the bedroom. Maintaining her kneeling position, Hippolyta watched as the owl transformed from a simple bird into a beautiful goddess. Dressed in an outfit that was a mixture between royal robes and battle armor, Athena was a thing of beauty, dark brown hair falling into the middle of her back, lightly tanned skin that seemed to accented by her golden armor and an air of wisdom that seemed to make others around her offer their undivided attention. "Rise, Queen Hippolyta," the goddess of war said. "I will not have you bow to me in your own bedroom." Obeying the goddess's words, Hippolyta lifted herself from the floor but stood in a way that said she was talking to someone of a higher status. "To what do I owe the honor of your visit, Lady Athena?" She already a hunch. Athena offered Hippolyta a benevolent smile as she addressed the question. "Why, I'm here to see the newest addition to Themyscira." Moving closer towards the bed, Athena stood over the sleeping forms of Diana and Naruto. "Well, isn't he just the cutest?" "Indeed he is, Lady Athena." Hippolyta responded in a monotone voice. This wasn't like gushing over the child with Antiope, she was talking to a goddess. With gentle hands, Athena carefully pried the sleep baby from Diana's arms and held him. "So do you really intend to raise him as a Themysciran? Even though he carries the blood of your people's most greatest enemy. He also carries my blood, Lady Athena, therefore he is a Themysciran." "An honorable endeavor indeed," Athena said, commenting on Hippolyta's plans to treat the boy as if he's her own. "But your plan is not without flaws." "I'm well aware of that, Lady Athena. Because of Ares' blood, Naruto will no doubt be endowed with great power and a thirst for battle," Hippolyta said. "But Ares is not one who is raising Naruto, I am. My son will honor and love Themyscira. He will better than any before and after him, this I promise, Lady Athena." Spoken like a mother. The goddess of war and wisdom complimented. "And as a Themysciran, young Naruto is entitled to my love. I wish to offer him a gift." Holding out both her hands, a bright glow surrounded her hands, forcing Hippolyta to look away for a few moments. "Return your gaze to me, Queen of Themyscira." Within the goddess's palms was a small lion cub. "Behold, a companion that will stand by Naruto's side until the end of his days." "Well, I have to admit, that went much better than I expected," a pleased Hippolyta said as she walked through halls of the Themysciran palace with her two children trailing not far behind. The reason for the mother of two bright mood was because just moments ago the immortal queen along with her daughter bore witness to just how accepting and kind their sisters can be when she announced Naruto's presence and position to her fellow Amazons. Admittedly, a small part of Hippolyta feared Antiope's theory of a number of Amazons not being too pleased to know a male would be given the title Prince of Themyscira, but much to Hippolyta's relief, she received no outcries of anger when she offered the stage to any who would disagree with her decision. Though that could have been attributed by her Hippolyta informing the women of Athena's blessings. "I truly hope they want Naruto here and didn't hold their tongues in fear of insulting Athena." As Diana trailed behind her mother, she carefully cradled her little brother within her arm. "They did seem quite welcoming to little Naruto, mother." The princess happily noted. Like her mother, Diana was ecstatic to know that Naruto wouldn't be treated like an outsider. "Given our people's history with men, I'm surprised no one stepped up to argue against you, mother." Thanks to her history lessons, Diana was well aware of the suffering her mother and sisters endured in the past. "That's because our little prince is nothing more than a child, Princess Diana." Both the queen and princess heard a voice say behind them. All it took was a quick turn to reveal the speaker to be a woman whose features included long orange hair fashioned into a ponytail, green eyes that seemed to dance with amusement, and an outfit that was favored among the Bonamidal Amazons. "Just because we Amazons have bad history with men, that doesn't mean we'll project our anger onto an innocent child. We're warriors, not monsters." "Artemis," Diana chirped upon seeing her favorite combat instructor. Turning Naruto towards Artemis, the princess gave the infant a brief introduction. "Artemis, Naruto, her name is Artemis. And she's the most talented archer in all of Themyscira. I've once seen her hit an apple dead in its center from 500 meters away in a rainstorm. She's also teaching me the fighting styles of the Bonamidal Amazons, and when you're older, I'm sure she'll teach you too." Naruto's response was to babble incoherently. "I am humbled by your kind words, my prince," Artemis said jokingly. She even went as far as taking a small bow. "Hello Artemis," Hippolyta greeted. Not unlike a decent portion of Themyscira's population, Artemis was not born among their people. Instead, she originated from a tribe of Egyptian Amazons that joined Themyscira when their home was destroyed during a great battle. Ever since her arrival, the orange-haired woman continued to prove herself as a valuable sister with her fierceness in battle. "Is there anything you need of me?" "There is indeed, my lady," Artemis answered before turning towards the two youngest Themysciran. "Why don't go take your little brother to the garden, Princess Diana, I have things to discuss with the queen." Little brother, there's a word Artemis thought she'd never use. Diana's cheeks puffed up in annoyance at the way she was so casually dismissed. "And why would I do that, big sister? As princess, don't you think I'm entitled to know what's going on in my city?" She wasn't speaking out of pure nosiness or entitlement. Diana took her role as the princess seriously and wanted to be included in helping in problems that Themyscira might encounter. According to her mother, being the princess meant she was a servant of the people and was expected to come to their aid when they needed her help. Trust me, princess, this is something beyond your age. That managed to get Hippolyta to arch a brow in curiosity. There weren't many secrets among the Amazons. Wipe that frown from your face, daughter, and don't worry about a thing. Hippolyta said in a motherly tone. Just do as Artemis says and take Naruto to the garden to play. If Artemis insisted that Diana was too young for this talk, then she'd have to agree to send the princess away. However, if she could, Hippolyta would later give Diana a abridged version of the conversation. Obeying her mother, Diana turned away from the two and began walking towards the palace's garden. Come, little brother, I'll show you my favorite type of flower. Once Diana and Naruto was out of listening range, Hippolyta turned towards Artemis and shifted her persona from caring mother to warrior queen. What is it, Artemis? She hoped with all of heart the conversation topic wouldn't be about her son's place in their society. I believe it would be best if we take this conversation to your throne room. That's where the others are. Others? Now seated on her throne, Hippolyta's eyes swept over the women who called the unscheduled meeting: Artemis, Antiope and Penthesilea, the commander of Themyscira's royal guards. So tell me, what is it that has brought us four into this room? The queen inquired. Stepping forward first was Penthesilea. Like the other women in the room, she boasted a beautiful appearance, dark red wavy hair, matcha-toned skin and armor that did nothing to detract from her feminine figure. It was I who called this meeting, my lady. Penthesilea revealed. And it's concerning your new son. Hippolyta gripped her throne's marble armrest, so tight fractures were beginning to appear. What is it about Naruto? She asked in a strained voice. It seems her worries were coming true. Seeing the distressed look on her sister's face, Antiope made a move to calm her nerves. No need to worry, Hippolyta. We are not here to talk about Naruto being in any danger, quite the opposite. In fact, we want to talk about Naruto's future. Feeling a wave of relief wash over her, Hippolyta encouraged the three to continue. What of it? Now that her queen was in a better mood, Penthesilea continued. While you were presenting the prince, I recognized a familiar look on a number of the Amazons' faces, a woman's longing. I could tell because they wore the same expression when you presented Princess Diana. Jealously? Hippolyta asked in disbelief. She couldn't believe that word could be used to describe any Themysciran. Unsurprisingly, yes. Artemis bluntly answered. You couldn't really believe you were the only one who longed for a child, my queen. Hippolyta had no comment to make. Warriors or not, we are all women. And it is in a woman's nature to desire a child. It didn't take very long for Hippolyta to reach the same conclusion the three before her did. Are you saying that when Naruto reaches the right age we believe a number of Amazons will attempt to have him impregnate them? Antiope said, both her hands placed firmly on her hips. Well, it's only a theory that three Amazons thought up when they allowed their minds to wander, but we still believe this talk needed to be had. Momentarily shocked by what she just heard, Hippolyta found herself unable to greet one of her personal guards, Mira, who just entered the throne room. Queen Hippolyta, the raven-haired woman said as bowed. I have come bearing request from your loyal Amazons. Snapping out of her state of shock, Hippolyta addressed Mira. Who are these loyal Amazons? The queen asked. Mira's sudden appearance was a rare case of irony. Apologies, my lady, there are too many to name. That statement surprised every woman in the room bar the one giving the news. Well, can you remember all of the request? Antiope asked. Were women already planning to ask Hippolyta if her son could give them a child? Well, there are many who have made requests. They all want the same thing, Mira said, further confusing the women. They wish to hold Prince Naruto in their hands. Why? The confused queen asked. I honestly do not know, my lady. Letting the request sink in, Hippolyta found it difficult to say no. Send a few in, I would like to have words. Giggling softly at Naruto's ever-curious behavior, Diana watched as her younger brother crawled frantically through the garden, trying to take in every sight his bright blue eyes could see. Isn't the garden wonderful, little brother? The princess asked while expecting no answer. Given the tragedy that led to her and her mother discovering Naruto, Diana was happy to see Naruto enjoying himself. After taking her eyes off Naruto's small form to admire the sight of a small flock of hummingbirds, Diana turned back to discover the blonde bundle of energy had scampered off into another part of the garden. Naruto, she shouted in worry. Thoughts of her younger sibling stumbling into a thorn-filled rose bush motivated the princesses to run frantically through the garden. The moment Diana rounded the first corner of the garden, she discovered her brother safe and sound along with Alexa, who's sitting comfortably on a blanket with a stack of books next to her. Well, hello there, little one, Alexa said as she set one of her books aside in favor of lifting Naruto up. Unlike the majority of her sisters, Alexa is the one of the few Themyscirans who doesn't feel the least bit comfortable with a sword in hand. In fact, Diana couldn't recall a moment when she's seen Alexa holding an unsheathed sword. It's this lifestyle choice that encouraged Hippolyta to ask the well-read Amazon to instruct Diana in their people's more non-violent ways. So this the little prince I've been hearing about. Ankara. Diana said in relief as she joined the two on the blanket. Based on this little game of hide and seek, the older sister had no doubt when Naruto grows a little older. Sorry about disturbing your reading, I was not aware you were in the garden. No need to apologize, Diana. I don't mind the company. Especially if it's her favorite student. He's quite the adventurer, isn't he? It was obvious Alexa was commenting on how Naruto crawled around the garden without a sense of apprehension. I have a feeling he's going to be very popular among our sisters. What makes you say that? Diana wondered aloud. Oh, just a feeling. 8 years later, the first son of Themyscira. That was the title the Amazons of Themyscira unanimously decided to grant upon their beloved prince. During the first week of Naruto's sudden arrival, Queen Hippolyta offered every woman who inhabited Paradise Island the chance to hold the prince in their arms. That, along with the infant's innocence, stirred the love of children within every Amazon who chose to attend the event. And the turnout was very substantial. And so through the passing years the young prince knew the love of 1,000 mothers and the teachings of Themyscira's most wisest scholars and decorated warriors. Like a moth to a flame, the first son of Themyscira took to each lesson he was taught so that he might be with them heart and soul. He wanted to know all about Themyscira's history because he declared it to be his history also. He wanted to be great warrior to protect his home and her people just like any prince should. And the more the young boy grew, the more he excelled. To name any great battle and what strategy brought the Amazons victory was a simple task for Naruto. And combat. It's nothing more than second nature to the boy who holds the blood of the god of war and the queen of the Amazons. No weapon was above Naruto's understanding. Anything that has a practical use on the field of battle could be wielded by the son of war with mere ease. The extreme proficiency with weapons wasn't the only gift that was bestowed upon the blonde. Herculean strength that matched his sister's belonged to Naruto, the ability to heal from debilitating wounds in a matter of moments, and the uncanny ability to understand nature, among a few other things. But for all of Naruto's knowledge and talents, there was one thing the child could not avoid: bathing. I can wash myself, Philpus. That was the shout a few passing Amazons heard as they walked past the city's public bathhouse. Inside the marble structure, a number of Themyscirans giggled in amusement as they watched their prince splash water around in his failing attempt to break free of Philpus's hold. I'm sure you can, my prince, but as your loyal subject it is my duty to ensure that you receive a thorough bath. Philpus said in a mocking tone as she dunked the struggling blonde into the warm water. It wasn't a secret among the Themyscira that Naruto disliked being treated because of his title as prince. He always preferred to be looked upon as another of Themyscira's children, therefore going out of one's way to help Naruto became a running joke among many women. When Naruto emerged from the water there was a half-hearted sneer on his face. Can he be annoyed by his sisters? Easily. But outright angry? Never. Your dedication to throne has been well noted, my dear sisters. Now can you please release me? Once he felt Philpus loosen her grip, the blonde prince made his escape. By Athena's owl, finally. He frowned as the Amazons once more laughed. Despite the fact that Naruto is currently sharing his space with a number of beautiful women who didn't even attempt to cover their naked forms, the young boy didn't even show the slightest bit of embarrassment. And why should he? The sight of naked Amazons was a scene he experienced every single day. Now that she didn't a prince to toy with, Philpus began lathering herself with soap. So what lessons will you be learning today, my prince? None. Was Naruto's simple answer. Mother has decided to give me a day free of my studies, and I intend to spend it hunting with Deimos. Next to training alongside his sisters, Naruto favored spending his afternoons hunt with giant lion friend. By the gods and goddesses, I didn't believe such a thing was possible, my dear sisters. Callisto, an Amazon who specialized in sculpting marble, loudly announced. Our beloved prince actually can spend the afternoon away from Artemis. Naruto's whisker-marked cheeks gained a small red tint as the Amazons laughed at his expense. Wow. What does that suppose to mean, Callisto? The naked dark-skinned Amazon offered the embarrassed blonde a mischievous grin. No need to embarrassed, prince. Almost every Amazon on Themyscira knows you favor Artemis. The best response Naruto could muster was to submerge himself in the bathhouse's warm water. Tell me, my prince, what do you like most about Artemis? Is it her skill with a blade, fiery attitude, or is it her beauty? Philpus asked. I find all Amazons on Themyscira beautiful, big sister. Naruto mumbled out. Did you hear that, sisters? Prince Naruto finds us all beautiful. Suddenly the young warrior found himself surrounded by women. If you find us all beautiful, who's the most beautiful? Naruto felt a hand glide across his whisker-marked cheek as he stumbled to find a decent response. If the queen were to ask you to choose a Themysciran to be your wife, who would you choose? And Naruto's breaking point was reached. I believe that this has been a successful bath and I am clean enough, my hair grant you all wonderful sisters. Naruto yelled as he climbed out of the water and towel to dry himself off. If anyone has need of me, I will be in the forest. The Amazons giggled loudly as they watched their prince practically run to the exit. Now that his bath was done, Naruto stood outside the bathhouse clad in a crimson loincloth that reached around his entire waist, a snug-fitting leather vest, a pair of sandals and finally a golden band that held the image of a ram's head wrapped securely around his right bicep. All done Deimos, apologies for making you wait so long. Vilpus thought it would be funny to attend to her prince's needs. Blazing next to the bathhouse was a creature one could not believe could exist outside of a mythical story, given its abnormal appearance. Easily measuring 8 feet tall and sporting a messy bronze mane, the golden-furred beast released a yawn that revealed a wicked set of shark teeth that appeared capable tearing through anything that found itself wedged between its jaws. However, no matter how frightening the beast may appear at first glance, it was allowed to roam the streets Themyscira without indent, since the Amazons recognized him as Deimos, their prince's ever-faithful four-legged companion. Before we go off into the forest to hunt, I must make a quick stop at Io's workshop, there's something I must fetch. After waiting for Deimos to shake off his laziness, Naruto and his four-legged friend began running through the city streets at astounding speed. With ease the boy and lion maneuvered through Themyscira's winding roads and beautiful instructors until they eventually made it to their desired destination, Io's workshop. Once the two arrived at that workshop, Deimos took the interlude as an excuse to sunbath while Naruto entered the building. Upon his entry, the Themysciran prince was greeted with the sight of Io working on a horseshoe. It goes without saying that Io is blessed with beauty, short brown hair, soft features, bright green eyes, and it was a shame her attractive form was currently hidden underneath a thick apron. "Good afternoon, sister," Naruto said with a smile. The moment she heard Naruto's voice, Io turned from her work to greet the young child a wave. "Good afternoon to you too, Prince Naruto. I suppose you're here to pick up your hunting gear." "Yep," Naruto answered with a nod. "Just give me a moment," Io said right before disappearing into the back of her workshop. It only took the blacksmith no more than 30 seconds to return with a bundle in hand. "Everything is as requested, little brother." After placing the leather bundle on an empty table, Io showed off her handiwork, an 18-inch serrated machete to clear out any bothersome foliage, a leather quiver that contained a couple dozen arrows, a bow that was decorated with the image of eagles, and finally a short dagger to put in suffering creature out of its misery. "I trust everything is to your liking." "It is, sister," Naruto said with a twinge of awe in his voice. The equipment was masterfully crafted. "You have outdone yourself, sister. Did Lord Hephaestus aid you in their creation? HMPH, who was it that taught you how to talk like a charmer, little brother?" While equipping his newly fashioned hunting gear onto his person, Naruto flashed Io one of his infamous foxy grins. "Mira might have gave me few lessons." A couple of hours later, with his bow in hand, Naruto silently moved through the forest's thick canopy, while a noticeably smaller Deimos stalked the ground floor. Making use of his impressive vantage point, the young prince located a grazing deer in a large clearing. "Apologies," the young boy whispered as he shot an arrow at the animal. The metal and wooden arrow had little problems finding its way to the deer's neck. The kill was quick and painless. Before Naruto made a move to collect his kill, he took a moment to thank the gods and goddess for a successful hunt, as was his people's custom. Once his prayer was done, he abandoned his spot on the trees and landed next to Deimos. "2 more like this one and we'll have enough to decent-sized stew," Naruto said as he attached his bow onto his quiver. "No, you stay here while I go grab the deer, I don't want you taking an early bite." The lion released a quiet growl. "That's what you said last time, Deimos. I will not be fooled again." While Deimos stayed behind, Naruto walked into the clearing with intentions on fetching the deer's body. But just as the Themysciran prince began reaching for the corpse, the sound of heavy footsteps encouraged the young boy to move. Whatever attempted to take the prince by surprise cleaved the deer's body in two. Once Naruto's roll came to a stop, he raised his head to get a look at his assailant, a large centaur wielding a massive halberd. A quick glance in Deimos' direction revealed his four-legged friend was trapped behind a wall of light, which meant he was on his own. The creature's face was filled with bloodlust. "Are you the prince of wenches?" Slowly, Naruto's baby blues began turning blood red. "Watch your tongue, beast, or I'll rip it out and shove it up your ass." Mira might have been the one to teach Naruto how to charm, but Artemis instructed him in the ways of a proper threat. "I'll take that as a yes," the man-beast said as he circled the young prince. "My lord has wished death upon you and I shall grant it." "No," with practiced ease, the angered prince withdrew his bow and a single arrow and took aim at the centaur. "You shall only try." The first arrow Naruto shot was blocked by the hybrid's halberd, but next to 3 hits impacted the beast directly in the chest. It was a shame its skin was tough, stopped the arrows from doing any real internal damage. "Jaya!" The centaur roared as it rushed the child with intent to run its weapon through the prince's form. During the mad charge, Naruto easily avoided the attack by jumping into the air, all while shooting a barrage of arrows. Whatever the centaur couldn't block with his halberd barely made it through the creature's thick hide. The moment its royal target's feet hit the ground, the centaur swung its halberd in a downward strike in an attempt to cut the boy into two, however his weapon was stopped by the boy's machete. "You're fighting a Themysciran, beast." Naruto growled as he parried the attack with ease, his strength ensured the action was done with little to no problems. Thanks to the unexpected block, the prince was offered a clear opening when the beast stumbled backwards. In an impressive burst of speed, Naruto maneuvered himself underneath the centaur's large frame and lifted Horseman with his bare hands. "Now beggin'," he yelled while throwing the creature. Upon its landing, the centaur released a growl of annoyance as he was forced to use his halberd as a means to help lift him out of the mud. A child. Thrown by a fucking child. "I must kill, such a tale can never reach my lord, he'll kill me for it." Fueled by blinding rage, the hybrid once more attempted a direct charge. After waiting for the most opportune moment, Naruto quickly planted his machete in the ground while he sidestepped the attack and gripped the halberd's exposed handle, which effectively brought the charge to a grinding halt. Unskilled monster. Impossible. The monster cried out as it felt all four of its feet began to leave the ground. Naruto looked deep into the centaur's eyes as he used his grip on the halberd's handle to lift the monster above his head. "Nothing is impossible for a Themysciran warrior, beast." And with that he slammed then man-horse onto the ground. As the creature laid on the ground momentarily stunned, Naruto retrieved machete from the dirt and aimed it in the direction of his four-legged enemy. "I hope Lord Hades has something horrible planned for you." Before Naruto could behead the beast, his serrated blade was blocked by the halberd. "Why don't ask him in my stead?" The centaur yelled as it used one of its four horse legs to kick the boy in his unguarded chest. Deimos growled in concern as he watched his friend harshly collide against the invisible wall that kept him walled out of the battle. "Idiot." Naruto muttered as he chastised himself. "I should have disarmed the damn thing." Before Naruto could point out any more of his mistakes, he was placed on the defensive as he used his machete to block a series of strikes. As the prince began backpedaling to avoid his attacks, the centaur gained a mad grin. "My lord promised me a night with your sister when I bring him your head. Oh, the fun we will have." That comment would soon be regretted. That was the first time Naruto had heard someone speak such words about any one of his sisters. Naruto, without speaking a single word, gave the monster a dead-eye stare that somehow caused a four-legged hybrid to freeze mid-strike. Something within the prince had suddenly snapped. While tightly gripping his weapon's hilt, the machete's serrated blade unexpectedly became engulfed blue flames. Once the centaur managed to snap out of its trance, the beast desperately tried to impale the young boy with his weapon. The flaming machete cut through the halberd's metal like water. Naruto's next move was a wild slash which left a large gash in the horse creature's chest, and once it recoiled in pain, he threw his serrated weapon directly into the centaur's bleeding chest while flailing all four of its legs out of pain. The beast's pained screams meant nothing to the young prince as he jumped onto the centaur's horse-like frame and brandished his dagger. Not unlike the machete, the small blade became engulfed in blue flames right before Naruto began stabbing the monster without abandon. After the fifth slash, his hated enemy fell onto the ground. "Monster. You're a monster." The centaur shouted as it attempted to climb back to its feet. A quick stab to the side put an end to any thoughts the creature might have of standing back up. Naruto, uncaring of the blood that caked his frame, took note of the flailing legs and promptly got rid of them. "Remember this for the rest of your short life, beast. Your words caused you this suffering." In one smooth motion, the young warrior plunged the dagger into the centaur's horse stomach and ran the blade through the centaur's entire frame, effectively disemboweling the creature. As Naruto removed his hands from the dead centaur's entrails, a newly freed Deimos walked over to his side and gently nudged the young blonde, not that Naruto really noticed. He was too busy staring at his hands. I really enjoyed that." While his human friend was still entranced by the carnage he wrought, Deimos' sharp eyes were currently focused elsewhere. Although the forest's thick brush did an exemplary job at obscuring the mystery observer, the Themysciran lion could still easily sense someone watching them. Grrrrrrr. A deep growl emanated from Deimos as smoke could also be seen rising from his maw. It would be the sound of Deimos' threatening growl that pulled the young warrior from his daze. "What's the matter, Deimos?" Naruto asked as he tracked the overgrown lion's line of sight to the forest. "Is someone out there?" His response was another growl from Deimos. "Show yourself now and I give you my promise, you shall know mercy." It wouldn't be long before Naruto's call was answered. Emerging from the forest was a figure clad head to toe in armor that was defiantly not made by any Themysciran hands. Its appearance was way too demonic to be forged by any of his sisters. The only facial feature the prince could make out were two glowing blood-red eyes. Without showing any fear, Naruto held his dagger in a reverse grip. The moment the mystery being showed any signs of hostile, he would not hesitate to react. "Are you another beast after my life? Because if you were here from the start, I'm sure you know by now it will not be an easy task." The armored figure took one step forward, an act which prompted Naruto to tighten his grip and Deimos to fall into a pouncing position. A deep chuckle was heard before the man decided to speak. Easy child, I wish you no harm. I was just admiring the sight of you in action. Such aggression, such brutality, you're coming along nicely boy. Despite the smooth tone Naruto was just addressed in, Themyscira's first son refused to lower his guard. Who are you? And what business do you have on Paradise Island? For 5 uninterrupted seconds, the mystery man stared at the young blonde before he finally decided to rid himself of the horned helmet that hid his facial features. Aether. Now that the helmet was removed, Naruto found himself staring at a face that strongly resembled his own. Who am I? The newly revealed man asked rhetorically. Why I'm your father, child. And I believe you should fix your tone when addressing me, child. After all, I did take time out of my busy schedule to witness your first kill. Naruto's only reaction from the reveal was to tightening his grip on his dagger's hilt. The words of creatures such as yourself are not to be trusted. The man who bore an uncanny resemblance to Themyscira's prince gained a vicious grin. Did your mother teach you that? Yes. Naruto growled out before lunging at the man with his dagger poised to kill. She also taught me how to kill. My prince. That loud and distraught scream was one of the first things to reach Naruto's ears as he slowly limped into Themyscira's bustling marketplace, with not only a plethora of freshly gained injuries littering his person, but also 2 twin wicked-looking short blades that features a horned demon on both of the hilts, pronounced hooks on their lower edges, and an intricate pattern of lines that glowed a light blue hue. Trailing just a few feet behind the limping prince was his feline companion, Deimos. And just like Naruto, the large lion boasted a few notable wounds. The first Amazon to reach the barely conscious prince went by the name Dessa. My prince, what happened? She asked as she gently grasped each of the boy's shoulders. After giving Naruto a quick once-over, Dessa quickly deduced the injuries had nothing to do with a wild animal or a freak accident. The multiple cuts that were scattered throughout the whisker-marked blonde's form were too even and cleanly made, they had to have come from a blade. Naruto, with a more than a little discomfort gracing his facial features, looked up from the ground and met Dessa's gray eyes with his cerulean ones. He can't be my father. And with that, the Themysciran prince collapsed in Dessa's arms, much to the dismay of the gathered Amazons. Dessa, wasting not a single moment, effortlessly lifted the young blonde and began running in the direction of the palace, with intent to bring the prince to his mother. Hours later, as the prepubescent warrior slowly returned to the land of the living, he could feel the gentle sensation of someone running their hands through his hair while humming a soothing tune. Slowly his eyes fluttered open to sight of Diana standing above him with a worried look gracing her features. The moment Diana noticed the change in her young brother's condition, she quickly brought him into a tight hug. Thank Harry you're okay, little brother. I was beyond worried. The sound of her cracking voice validated her words. Do you remember what happened to you? Dessa said you've mentioned something about your father before you passed out, but surely she must have been mistaken. The memory of burying her brother's birth father years ago remained fresh in the princess's mind. No my daughter, I don't believe Dessa was mistaken. Standing in the doorway of Naruto's room was Queen Hippolyta wearing a solemn expression on her beautiful features. The Mayu battle in forest, tell me, the look she leveled onto the bedridden blonde was filled with remorse. Although the Themysciran queen knew Ares would eventually make his presence known to her younger child, that didn't stop the Amazon from detesting the god's timing. Her son is young, caring, impressionable yet pure thanks to the women that surrounded him. But a monster like Ares can only corrupt the Amazon's first son. Naruto stared at his mother with utter confusion in his eyes. I don't understand. I thought my father died the day I arrived on Themyscira. At least it was what he was told by Antiope and Diana. Thinking back on the matter, Naruto couldn't recall a single time when his mother referenced his father. After releasing a heavy sigh, Hippolyta took Naruto's hand into her own and began telling her son and daughter about her meeting with the god of war. The Amazonian queen brought it all out to light, how she sent Diana away to avoid seeing a child die, the promise she made to dying man and of course the deal she made with Ares. I couldn't do it. I couldn't allow a child to die in my arms. Diana smiled warmly at mother. You made the right choice. Ares' involvement be damned, Diana couldn't imagine living on Paradise Island without her little brother brightening her day. From the moment she was taught how to properly hold Naruto, the princess was completely enamored with her younger brother. While Diana was able to take the news in stride, Naruto's reaction was less positive. With a distraught look on his face, the blonde heir couldn't help but think back to his history lessons with Alexa. Though many years has passed since a single Themysciran has been forced to take up arms to defend their home, Ares has always been a problem for the Amazons. When he isn't personally failing in his attempts to destroy all of Themyscira, he enlists the aid of fools like Hercules to trying in his stead. All in all, if you considered yourself a Themysciran, the god of war is defiantly your enemy. Upon noticing Naruto's troubled expression, Diana was quick to react. If you think having the blood of Ares running through your veins changes your place on Themyscira, you're wrong, little brother. You're Naruto, the prince of Themyscira and you're loved. Although his older sister's words managed to put a smile on his face, Naruto still was worried his relation to Ares could eventually have a negative effect on his beloved sisters. So when will you make the announcement, mother? Hippolyta blinked out of confusion. Announcement? She parroted. What announcement do you speak of, my child? The one about my father. Naruto spat the word father out as if it contained venom. If all of Themyscira doesn't know about Ares' involvement, we should tell them. It's only right they know who walk among them. The frown marred Hippolyta's beautiful face. Who walks among them is their brother, not one of Ares' pathetic foot soldiers. Naruto, you are Themysciran before all, remember that. Yes, mother. Was the whisker-marked prince's immediate response. But I believe we should still tell everyone about Ares. Themyscirans do not keep secrets from each other. Hippolyta placed a kiss directly onto Naruto's forehead. Yes they do, my son. They actually keep plenty of secrets from each other. The queen thought. Just because each Amazon loves and respects on another doesn't mean they lay their entire souls to bear. There is no country in the world that can achieve greatness with placing a few skeletons into the closet. Themyscira is no exception. If that is what you truly want, I will have Philpus make the announcement that you want to address all of Themyscira. That would be appreciated, mother. As Hippolyta left the room, Artemis entered with a large bundle held in her arms and a knowing grin on her face. You've seemed to have healed well, little prince. The redeeted archer said as she took note of his uncovered chest. When he first was brought through the palace's door hours earlier, his whole form was littered with cuts and bruises. I've always healed fast, Artemis. Naruto said with a grin. After all, that's the only way I can survive my training sessions with you. When it came to learn how to fight from Artemis, the word mercy had no room to exist. The Bonamital Amazon preferred a trial-by-fire method of teaching rather than handing out lectures. Is that a present for Naruto? Diana asked as she glanced at the bundle Artemis held. Before answering the question, Artemis walked over to the bed and sat the package in directly in front of Naruto. I assure you, princess, these are not from any Themysciran. With his curiosity reaching its peak, Naruto unwrapped the bundles and he and Diana were giving view of short blades. Why? Why does these look so familiar? Naruto wondered while running a hand across one of the blade's flat surfaces. HMPH, curious. Artemis muttered with a arched brow. So you really can't recall where you saw those blades? The response she received was a shake of the head. That's strange, because Dessa told us you had a pretty nice grip on those when you came back to the city. I did. He asked while searching through his mind in a bid to remember. Well, besides stumbling into the market looking like you've just got on my bad side, Dessa said you were barely conscious. So I guess it shouldn't be so surprising that you have short-term memory loss. Barely paying Artemis any attention, Naruto took hold of one of the sword's hilts and lifted it of the bed to test the weight. It feels so familiar. He marveled. Like I've been training with these all my life. Which was a surprise to Diana. She attended just about every one of younger brother's training sessions and she couldn't recall a moment when he ever wielded anything that resembled those wicked blades. Could you have gotten them from Ares? The princess hesitatingly asked. She couldn't see Io devoting her time to forging such cruel-looking weapons. Naruto couldn't find it in himself to answer Diana's question. Artemis had noting to consider. She has already fully embraced the idea that Ares was the one to give Naruto the admittedly impressive blades, but that still didn't explain why he came back into the city in such terrible shape. What exactly did you and the god of war discuss, little prince? As Naruto mulled over Artemis' inquiry, his face scrunched up in concentration. He told me he was proud of me. Not in those exact words, but hell, he can barely remember why he went out into the forest in the first place. Proud of you, Diana said in bewilderment. Why would he be proud of you? You live life as a Themysciran, and Ares has always harbored great hatred for our people. Unless the god of war is referring to her brother's prodigious skills with weapons, she didn't understand what Naruto could have done to gain Ares' favor. He was proud of my first kill. Naruto outright admitted as he unconsciously recalled the rush he felt during the battle. It was like nothing he'd ever experienced before. His heart was pumping at Mach speed, his mind was focused on one singular goal. More specifically, he was proud about how I went about doing it. Artemis's jade eyes narrowed. Explain. Without any hesitation, Naruto complied with Artemis's request demand. He told them about how his and Daimo's hunt unexpectedly became a battle, how angry he felt when the creature insulted his home and sisters, and how that led him into brutally killing the centaur. While Diana was angry over the ordeal her little brother was forced to go through, Artemis found herself more than a little impressed. So not only did you kill the beast that was insulting and threatening your sisters, but you also made an attempt on the god of war's life. Naruto opened his mouth to explain himself, but Artemis' surprising outburst stopped him before he could get a word out. Ha. You have been raised well, little prince. Very well. Pride was flooding her voice. Diana was both shocked and appalled at Artemis's reaction to Naruto's tale. How can you take such a story in with a smile, Artemis? Naruto could have been easily killed. Artemis scoffed at Diana's reasoning. But he wasn't killed. Like his mother and sisters before him, our little prince bravely charged into battle wanting nothing more than to defend Themyscira. You should be proud of him, Diana, I know I am. I'm relived, Artemis. The princess stated. Relived, my brother didn't die trying to take on a god. And I don't understand how you can always be so battle ready when we are people of peace. Despite all the battles that filled the Themysciran history books, the Amazons consider themselves a peaceful race. That is until they're forced to take up arms. The reason we are even able to enjoy these peaceful days are because we left no army alive to threaten us, princess. Just like you and the others, I too enjoy the peace speeches the queen gives on special occasions, but I also don't forget the battles that lead to our peace. Can both of you please stop this? Naruto shouted, effectively grabbing the attention of the two lovely women. As interesting as this debate is, I want you both to know it's unwarranted. I understand that just because we live in peaceful days doesn't mean we should forget how to wield a blade, and I also understand that as a Themysciran, I should hold peace in high regards, which I do. Unconsciously, Naruto began gripping the hilt of the weapon he held. But the only excuse I have for my actions is that I was mad. When that thing threatened my sisters and insulted them, I forgot that there is such a thing as mercy. Diana, replicating her mother's earlier action, kissed Naruto's forehead before placing a hand on his shoulder. I know you had nothing but the best intentions in your heart, little brother, but you must remember that the edge of a sword isn't always the answer. Make no mistakes, your actions honor Themyscira, but it also put you in harm's way. Suppressing a coddling comment, Artemis wordlessly decided to put off her sparring match with Diana later on. Your sister speaks the truth, little prince. You've honored us all with your actions and bravery. She said while ruffling Naruto's spiky locks. Now, I believe you are to address Themyscira soon, am I correct? The young blonde nodded in confirmation. Well, it wouldn't be very appropriate to talk to your sisters as is, the princess, and I will leave you to prepare. And with that, the two gave Naruto a small bow before leaving the room. Once Diana and Artemis were no longer in sight, Naruto tossed both of the identical swords across the room, as if it was a crime to even be in their presence. I don't need you in my life. 2 years later, is there anything on Gaia's green earth that's better than a well-written book, Deimos? Alex idly asked Deimos as she rested her body against the enchanted lion's massive form while reading a book that told a story about an adventurous young woman who travels the world. Just like the red-headed beauty expected, the notoriously lazy lion simply yawned in response to her question. I suppose you are entitled to your own opinion, my friend. All the living personifications of Beauty and the Beast enjoying the quiet setting the sun-drenched beach offered, Deimos' ears began to involuntarily flicker as the sound of something emerging from the ocean reached him. A lazy glance upward revealed it was none other than Themyscira's first son, Prince Naruto. Over the course of 2 years, not much has changed in Prince Naruto's life after he revealed that the blood of the Amazon's most dreaded foe runs through his veins. Of course, after the initial reveal, there were a number of Themyscirans who felt uneasy with Naruto's presence, that in turn led Hippolyta to assign the prince 4 royal guards. Although the number of Amazons who distrusted the prince was few, Naruto still felt wounded. It was only after Artemis, under no orders, who made the story of Naruto's meeting with the god of war public knowledge, helped sway the Amazons back onto the prince's side. But the empty and torn fishing net in hand and droplets of water falling from his form and into the sea below, Naruto wore a frown as he threw the net aside. Annoying beasts. The prince muttered in frustration. Alex, closing her book for the moment, took notice of her prince's irate state. What's the matter, Prince Naruto, has the megalodons been eating your catches again? The literature-loving Amazon asked. Yes. It seems those lazy sharks have decided to quite hunt for themselves and eat whatever they can find in our nets. Naruto said as he glanced back in the direction of the Argent Sea. I thought I had an understanding with those overgrown fish. The calming smile was all Alexa had to offer the angry prince. You shouldn't be so upset them, my prince. You know how the megalodons get when they're hungry. The fact that prehistoric monsters such as the megalodon shark still exist and roams around Paradise Island shores caused the Themyscirans no worries. Instead of being cautious or fearful of the massive hunters, the Amazons treated the megalodons as protectors and allowed them to swim their waters undisturbed, and in return the sharks have never showed any aggression to an Amazon. Sighing, Naruto swam to the sandy shore and walked onto the beach. I'm not that angry megalodons, big sister, I'm just slightly annoyed I couldn't catch a king crab for Io. He admitted as he made his way over to Alexa and Deimos. Besides, he couldn't hate the megalodons ever since he was taught how to swim by Alkion, one of Naruto's royal protectors. The giant sharks have been serving as his protectors from the creatures of the deep. I just felt I need to do something nice for her to repay her for the excellent blade she's forged for me. Well, I'm sure she'll more than appreciate the effort. Alexa assured the prince with a smile. Now, I believe it's time we start heading back to the city, otherwise you might be late training session and upset Artemis. A frightful shiver ran up Naruto's spine as he thought about being forced to spar with the angry Artemis. I suppose you're right, big sister. Let's. Before he could finish his statement, Naruto found himself silenced as something large and fast flew past his head. By Hera. He may not have any idea what the object is, but the trail of smoke makes it easy to track. What was that? Alexa wondered aloud as she watched airborne craft head towards the forest. I don't know, the prince answered before jumping onto Daimo's back and grabbing 2 handfuls of his bronze mane. But we should find out, hang on tight, sister. And with that said, Deimos began following the trail of smoke. It took Deimos only a matter of seconds to make it to the forest from the beachfront. And the deeper the three traveled the more obvious it became they were not only ones who bore witness to the spectacle, just a few meters of them were Diana, who was horseback, and Artemis who ran with a spear in hand. It didn't take long for Deimos' speed to outpace both his sisters. Just what do you think you're doing, little prince? Artemis yelled the moment Naruto and Alexa rode past her. At this point it was obvious to Naruto that everyone was chasing something or someone, but what or who was still a mystery to the prince. To be honest, Artemis, I have no idea. He happily announced before running into a dead end. A glance downward revealed the only way out to be an opening in the ground. Alexa took one look at the crevice and another at her prince. By Athena's owl, please tell me you're not going. Yes I am. Without waiting for Alexa to finish her sentence, Naruto hopped off of Deimos' back and jumped directly into the crevice. The fall was steeper than expected, but not very life-threatening to an Amazonian prince. After landing in a stream and allowing the current to direct his course, the whisker-marked Themyscira eventually ended up on a riverbank, with the only thing to greet him was the sight of Diana standing over an unconscious figure. What did I miss? Garbed in pair of loose-fitting orange pants and black shirt, Naruto stood alongside his sisters and mother as they waited for Diana's male captive to regain concussions. Without any shame, the prince stared at the man in wonderment. He looked so weak. Naruto thought. Diana said he couldn't even take a punch. Are all men weak where he comes from? Alcyon, taking note of her prince's curiosity, placed a hand on his shoulder before bending down to speak in his ear. Behold, my grace. This is one of the filth you have been raised to be better than. It wasn't a secret to the Amazons of Themyscira that when it came to upholding one's responsibilities, Alcyon is a borderline extremist. It took multiple orders from both the prince and the queen before Alcyon and her fellow royal guards, Murdo, Cheris and Philomela, stopped threatening to harm any Amazon who came close to Naruto without obtaining permission beforehand. But a hidden fact about Alcyon and her circle was that they hated Diana with a burning passion. Each of the royal guards views her presence as a threat to Themyscira, while the princess promises a new dawn. Artemis silently watched as Alcyon attempted to sway the prince into picking up her extremist thoughts and thought about intervening. It was a decision made by her and a few other Amazons in secret that Alcyon can't be allowed to poison their prince's mind with her fanatical beliefs. As Artemis began to move toward separating Naruto and Alcyon, the prisoner began stirring. Upon his return to consciousness, the unwanted male guest immediately took notice of the beautiful women that stood before him. Wow, I haven't had this dream since I was 13. Artemis's response was a viscous punch. Of course she held back a considerable amount of her strength, just to ensure she didn't dislocate or outright break the man's jaw. You will speak only when spoken to. The fiery Amazon said in a steel tone. That's enough, Artemis. Hippolyta said as she walked to the front of the crowd with the golden lasso in hand. Welcome to Themyscira. We are the Amazons. We live simple lives and we wish to keep it that way. There are a few questions we have to ask you. With a look of defiance in his eyes, the bound man stared at the queen. Sorry ma'am, soldiers don't talk. He genuinely sounded as though he wouldn't budge on the matter. From Naruto's perspective, he had to stifle a laugh. In the presence of the lasso of truth, unwillingness meant nothing. Paying the words of the man no heed, the queen effortlessly ensnared the stranger in the lasso of truth. Hey, I'm into the kinky stuff too, but if you think that's going to make me more cooperative, you're wrong. Identify yourself. The lasso compels you to. As the rope glowed brightly, the man couldn't help but responded. United States Air Force, Colonel Stephen Rockwell Trevor. The now named Stephen said in a robotic manner. The glare Hippolyta was currently receiving was a mixture of anger and confusion. This lasso was created by Lord Zeus to bypass the untrustworthy nature of man, you cannot resist its power. She explained before getting back on topic. What interest does your government have in our island? And like before, Stephen's answer came with no hesitation. No interest whatsoever. The only reason I'm here is because my plan was badly damaged and landing on your island was my only chance for survival. Well that's good to know, Artemis said before turning towards the queen. Shall I kill him now? While the Air Force pilot looked understandably shocked at Artemis's question, Hippolyta simply rolled her eyes at the archer's violent nature. There is no need for that, this man poses no threat. We shall give him a food, water and a boat and leave him to the mercy of the Aegean Sea. But what about the Megalodons? Naruto interjected. It was at the moment Steven realized he wasn't the only male in the room. The moment they catch his scent he'll be dinner. Not our problem, my grace. Alcyon shamelessly announced. Wait a minute here. Trevor yelled. Megalodons as in megalodon sharks which are the size of a city bus. As the gathered Themyscirans wondered what exactly is a city bus, the doors of the room flew opened. And standing in the threshold was a noticeably panicked Philpus. My queen, the primordial flames. They're dying. The room was soon cleared of all Amazons, leaving a bound and confused Stephen Trevor to his thoughts. I really hope that kid didn't say megalodons. The chambers of the primordial flames. Like most rooms that held something of import, the chambers of the primordial flames featured some of the finest Themysciran architecture. Large marble pillars, walls emblazoned with the images of the gods and goddesses, and of course the centerpiece of the room was the primordial flame itself. Usually the blue flames that danced on the golden disc stood as tall as a human, but now, its size was no bigger than a bush. I don't understand, the fire was lit by the gods themselves, how can it be dwindling? Hippolyta asked Menelope, the oracle of the Amazons. The gods, my queen. Menelope began as she gazed at the dying flame. They cry from Mount Olympus. There is great danger on the horizon, and the world is in need of Themyscira's help. Artemis couldn't help but frown underneath the weight of the oracle's words. And just why should Themyscira care about the world's trouble, Menelope? Can't they protect themselves? Apparently they cannot, Artemis. The oracle answered. Because it has been decreed by the gods that we must choose a champion, the very best among us. She shall prove herself through tournament and the trail of flashing lighting. And then, she alone must venture out into man's world and put a stop to this great danger. Hippolyta only needed a few brief seconds to herself before responding to the gods' commands. If the gods will it, it shall be done. She said before turning towards Philpus. Proclaim it throughout Themyscira. Tomorrow a tournament will be held, a champion will be born. As their mother spoke, Naruto couldn't help but notice how Diana's eyes lit up at the aspect of leaving the island. Once the room held a few less Themyscirans, Hippolyta was approached by her children. Mother, I wish to be included in the tournament. Diana's request came as no surprise for Naruto. Hippolyta was quick to address her daughter's request. No, Diana. She said firmly. I will not allow you or your brother to put yourselves in harm's way. Call it a mother's selfish need, but it is my will to keep you both shielded from the evils of the world. Diana's attempt to rebuttal was quickly squashed. Be silent, daughter. I am your queen as well as your mother. And I have spoken. And with that, Hippolyta left for her throne room. Naruto wasted no time in taking his dejected sister's hand into his own. You don't plan on letting this go, do you, big sisters? No, little brother. I do not. The next day, quite the turnout, eh, mother? Naruto said as his eyes swept across the Themysciran-made Colosseum, the spectators' balcony he occupied along with his mother, Philpus, Antiope, Menelope and Stephen Trevor, offered an impressive bird's-eye view. There wasn't an unoccupied seat in the whole stadium. Indeed it is, nephew. Antiope agreed. It's shame the princess isn't here to join us. The reason as to why Diana was a no-show was no secret to those who inhabited balcony, well, to Trevor it was. But he didn't really matter. I do not fault my dear Diana for being upset with me, Hippolyta admitted while idly twirling cup of one in her right hand. My decision to exclude Diana from the tournament was unjust. At the mention of Diana, Naruto made sure his mother didn't see his face as he took his seat next to Steven. Unlike his mother and aunt, Naruto knew the real reason as to why the princess was absent. With the help of a bronze helmet and slightly altered hairstyle, Diana hid herself among the competitors in order to enter the tournament. Hey, kid, Trevor said in an attempt to grab the prince's attention. After being told that the city of Themyscira was composed exclusively of women, plus one whisker-marked exception. The pilot couldn't help but to wonder what's the story behind Naruto. So, what exactly is your deal? Before Naruto could make an attempt addressing the question, Alcyon quickly withdrew her blade and pressed it against the unwanted male's throat. If you ever address his grace in such an informal manner again, by the flames of Tartarus, I will not hesitate to behead you. While his mother and aunt played ignorant to Alcyon's actions, Naruto found himself calming the captain of his royal guard. There is no need for any of that, big sister. He said softly while placing his hand over Alcyon's own. The moment Alcyon heard her prince's words and felt his touch, she shivered slightly before sheathing her weapon. Yes, your grace. Now that Alcyon no longer had her blade pressed against the man's neck, Naruto was ready to converse. I'm sorry, Mr. Trevor, but I'm not really familiar with the way you speak. My bad, Trevor said while unconsciously rubbing his neck and silently thanking the prince for calling off the bloodthirsty guard. I'm just curious about your story. Without even realizing it, Naruto's face became a blank slate. It's really not that interesting. Moments after Naruto's comment, the sound of trumpets filled the air announcing the start of the tournament. For the next 3 hours all of Themyscira bore witness to a great competition that was filled with an assortment of challenges that ranged from simple foot races and archery contests to pushing 2-ton boulders across up a steep hill and no-holds-barred sparring matches. Once the tournament was done and only one Themysciran remained, Hippolyta commanded the newest Amazonian champion to reveal herself. A myriad of gasps filled the air as Princess Diana revealed herself to be the winner. "No. I forbid this," Hippolyta loudly announced. Penelope was quick to gain her queen's ear. "My queen, you mustn't. The princess has rightfully gained the title of champion. To deny her the title of champion would be to go against the gods' will." Hippolyta made a tight fist as she stared at her victorious daughter. "If the gods will it, it must be done."